17, I worked at a little movie theater just about 3 hours north of New York City. I'm a guy, and at the time, I was one of the youngest employees there, but I lived close, like a 10-minute walk, and I never flaked. So, whenever there was a snowstorm, or a holiday, or someone called out of a late shift, my manager's first call was always me. We were a dying theater. We used to fill up for stuff like Harry Potter and big Marvel movies, but by this point, it was mostly random weeknight showings with 5 or 6 people. The building was old and kinda sad. One long lobby, 4 screens, sticky carpets that never felt fully clean no matter how much you mopped them. The parking lot was huge, probably the size of 2 football fields, with those sickly yellow lamps that make everything look like it's under dirty water. This happened on a Tuesday in the middle of winter. Snow on the ground, but not actively falling. Freezing cold. The kind where your nose burns as soon as you step outside. The last show of the night was a 10 p.m. action movie, and only 2 guys bought tickets for it. Both wearing dark hoodies, probably late teens or early 20s. They didn't buy any popcorn, no drinks, just walked straight into Theater 3. We were open 365 days a year, so even on nights like that, we had to follow full closing procedure. By around 11:30 p.m., all of the other screens were empty and cleaned. The popcorn machine was shut down, and the lobby lights were half dimmed. My manager and the security guard were in the back of the office with the money, counting drawers, doing deposits, and my job was to lock the front doors. They lock from the outside, but you could still push them open from the inside so people can leave and wait for the last movie to end. I remember standing at the front of the entrance, leaning on the counter, scrolling my phone, when I heard someone quietly say,
Hey kid,
I turned around, thinking someone needed help or was looking for the bathroom or a refill or something, and saw one of those hoodie guys standing near the door, just inside the lobby. The other one was a little behind him, hanging back by the hallway to the theaters. He waved at me with 2 fingers.
hey man, can I ask you something?
Up close, he didn't look scary, just young, maybe 18, 19, pale, chapped lips, slight acne scars. He said his car was having trouble starting in the cold, and he and his friend thought that they should leave the movie early before they got stranded. He asked if I can give him a jump. We stepped outside. The parking lot looked massive and empty. Just 4 cars. My manager's, the security guards, mine, and one other. Their car. Parked right next to mine for whatever reason. I told him I didn't have jumper cables, and I really didn't know how to do it anyway. He smiled a little and said, Nah, man, I got the cables. I just need another battery. I'll walk you through it. Help us out? I wish I could say I trusted my gut and said no, but honestly, I didn't want to seem like a jerk. And there was a stupid part of me that said, worst case, I could just hop in my car, lock the doors. It's not like there's an alley to drag me into, it's just an open asphalt and cameras. So I agreed. More out of people pleasing and fear of being rude than actual logic. We walked towards our cars. The guy and his friend flanked me a little, close enough that I could smell that cold, stale cigarette smell on their clothes, and they made small talk. How long have you worked here? You guys always this dead? Where is everybody, man? Just you working here? I answered vaguely. Managers in the back, security too, only locked the front and clean. I said security on purpose, like a little warning. They didn't react though. We got to my car. Their car was a beat up sedan with one headlight fogged yellow. The first guy bent down to pop their hood, and the second guy hung back with me. I turned to say something, and that's when I felt it. A hard cold jab right underneath my ribs. I looked down and saw a blade. Not huge, but sharp enough. Don't scream, he said. His voice was almost bored. Just unlock your car. My hands started shaking. I said something like, You can take my wallet, my phone, and held them out. But the guy with the knife shook his head. Unlock the car, he repeated. We're going back inside. That's when my stomach dropped. This wasn't just about my stuff. They wanted me inside. Inside where my manager and security guard were. inside where they could push me through the staff only door with a knife under my shirt and make me open the office. I hit unlock. They had me walk around and open the passenger door. And the moment the knife leaned in and said very quietly, right against my ear, "If you're gonna walk us in, talk normal, tell your boss you forgot something in Theater 3. You try anything, I stick you. Then him. Got it?" My vision went a little tunnel at the edges. I nodded. My breath felt like it was caught halfway in my throat. We started walking back towards the brightly lit glass doors. The whole time I was thinking, the cameras, the cameras. Maybe the cameras will catch their faces. Maybe the security guard will notice. The security guard chose that exact moment to come out for his smoke. The side door clicked open on the left, and he stepped out, squinting into the cold, shaking a cigarette out of his pack. He saw us and froze. I saw his eyes drop to where the guy's hoodie met my back. He couldn't see the knife, but he could see how close we were. "What's going on?" the guard asked. His voice had that fake casual thing in it, like he already knew. The knife pressed harder into my side. The first guy said,
Nothing, man. Just heading out, right?
and squeezed my shoulder with his free hand like we were all buddies. I don't know what came over me, but I said, "Actually, they need to talk to you. I'm gonna grab my jacket from inside." I stepped forward, away from the blade. The guy was heading for the door. For a second, nobody moved. Then the guard took a step toward them, hand going to his radio on his belt. The knife guy panicked and shoved me hard. I stumbled forward, hitting the glass with my shoulder behind me, and I heard the guard shout, "Drop it!" And then the sound of feet scrambling on asphalt. Turned around just in time to see one of them swing his arm. The guard swore and grabbed his forearm. They slashed him, shallow but enough to make him bleed. The other guy took off into the dark part of the lot, toward the tree line. The knife one followed him, both of them hauling ass. The guard didn't chase them. He pressed his hand to his arm and yelled at me to get inside and lock the doors. The cops came, statements were taken, security footage pulled. They never found the guys that night. The knife had nicked the guard, but it wasn't life threatening. He got 3 stitches and a tetanus shot. I figured that was the end of it until about a year later. A detective called me at the theater asking for me. He said 2 brothers had been arrested downstate for an armed robbery at a bowling alley. Same descriptions, similar car. One of the employees down there didn't get as lucky as my security guard. He stabbed him in the side trying to be a hero. They bragged about trying something at a theater once but chickening out. The footage matched our guys. They both got real prison time, over 10 years each. I quit 2 weeks after that night. My manager tried to talk me into staying, but I couldn't do it. Even now, I won't be the last one in any building. I don't care if it's work, the gym, whatever. If I see the place is empty, lights are half off, I'm out. Let someone else close. Every time I walk across a big, mostly empty parking lot under those buzzing yellow lights, I can feel that knife in my ribs again. This is one of those stories straight out of a movie where you don't have a good phone signal to call the police. And living in a quiet little town about 45 minutes outside of Nashville, I promise it's all true. And it's kind of common if you know anyone down here. I was 18, and so was my best friend Becky. It was the fall, the kind of crisp, quiet October where the air smells like cold leaves and everybody's decorating for Halloween. A new drive-in theater had just reopened out near the woods off one of our major highways. It was this old school setup, one giant screen in a field, little metal speakers on poles, and a concession stand that looked straight out of the 70s. You could also channel the movie audio through your car radio, but we chose to do it the old school way. We thought it sounded like fun. When we got there, maybe 7 or 8 cars were scattered across the field. You could see your breath when you talked, and the sky was so clear you could make out every single star. It felt peaceful at first. We parked near the back. More privacy, better view of the screen. The movie was Hocus Pocus. The second was some random slasher flick neither of us really watched. Halfway through, a pickup truck pulled in and parked right next to us. Three guys were inside, maybe early 20s, loud engine, country accents thick enough to cut. They rolled down the window, shouting,
"Hey, girls, y'all here alone?"
Becky gave this polite laugh and said, "We're good, thanks." They didn't like that. The guy in the passenger seat leaned out, asked for her number. When she said no, his smile dropped instantly. He muttered something. I couldn't quite catch it, but his tone changed. They revved the engine and backed up, kicking dust over our car. We laughed it off, pretending it wasn't weird. But the rest of the night, I couldn't focus on the movie. I just had this feeling they were still out there, watching. When the double feature ended around 1:30 a.m., most cars had already cleared out. We got in Becky's old Camry and pulled out slow, tires crunching over gravel. The long dirt road that led back to the highway had no lights, just our headlights cutting through the trees. A few minutes in, I looked in the rearview mirror, saw headlights. At first, I didn't think anything of it, but every turn we made, they did too. Never getting too close, never falling back, just hanging there. Becky said maybe it was someone who lived nearby, but she was gripping the steering wheel really tight. We turned off onto a smaller two-lane road that led toward her neighborhood. The headlights followed. When we finally turned onto her street, dark, no sidewalks, lined with trees, the truck slowed, then kept going past us. I swear I could feel us both exhale at the same time. Her mom was out of town that weekend, so we went inside, locked up, poured a cheap glass of wine, and put on some music. We started to relax. By 3 a.m., we were sitting on the couch, scrolling through TikTok, half laughing at ourselves for getting spooked, and that's when we heard it. It came from the living room window, right behind where we were sitting. We both froze. Becky muted the TV, and for a few seconds the house was silent. No wind, no creaks, just our breathing. Then came another tap. This time slower, like someone testing the glass. Becky whispered, "Probably just a branch." When she peeked through the blinds, there wasn't a tree anywhere near that side of the house. Then we heard it again, but not from the same place. This time it came from the kitchen window. Then the sound came again, from the outside of the house, and then from the back. It was like they were moving around us, checking every window. The tapping turned to rattling. Door handles shaking, windows creaking under pressure. Someone, or maybe more than one person, was circling the house, testing every way in. Becky ran to grab her phone. No signal, of course. Her house sat right in that dead zone where sometimes your text wouldn't even send until the morning. She whispered, "We should make a run for the car." But the front door was by the kitchen, where we just heard the rattling. Then something hit the side of the house, hard, like a shoulder or a boot. The wine glass on the counter rattled. Becky screamed and grabbed my hand, pulling me upstairs. We ran into her room, slammed the door, and locked it. I helped her push her dresser against the door. I peeked through the blinds. The moon was bright enough to light up the entire gravel driveway, and that's when I saw it. A pickup truck, parked at the end of the driveway, engine off, headlights dark. "They followed us," I whispered. Becky tried her phone again, still no bars. We didn't dare open the window, it would make too much noise, and her nearest neighbor was half a mile away. We sat there listening, frozen, as footsteps crunched in the leaves below. Then the sound of something metal dragging across the porch. For about 20 minutes, we didn't move. Then nothing. Silence. After another 10, Becky whispered, "Maybe they left." I didn't believe it. We waited another half hour before peeking again. The driveway was empty. That should have been a relief, but somehow it made my skin crawl worse. Like they hadn't left, just moved somewhere where I couldn't see them. Finally, around 4:15, her phone buzzed. One bar. She called 911. The call cut out once, but went through the second time. The operator said officers were on the way and told us to stay upstairs with the door locked. When we saw the red and blue lights wash across the bedroom walls, I almost cried. 2 sheriff's deputies swept the property. One of them came inside while the other walked the yard with a flashlight. All of the doors were still locked, windows too. The deputy found footprints in the mud, at least 3 distinct sets. One officer said they looked fresh. The weird part? They led halfway into the woods and just stopped. No tire tracks, no footprints coming back, just a dead end in the dirt. They never found anyone. Becky's mom came home the next day and installed floodlights and cameras around the house. We never went back to that drive-in again. And to this day, whenever I hear that light tap, tap, tap sound, even from a branch hitting my window, my stomach drops. Because I know what it sounds like when someone's testing the glass. I want to start off by saying that I don't do any drugs. I drink some beers occasionally with friends, but not on this night. I was stone cold sober for this, and I remember every second of it way too clearly. I was born and raised in a suburb outside New York City. My family didn't have a ton of money or some mansion or anything, just a normal house in the suburbs. Our big treat growing up was going to the movies. My dad loved old films, and he'd always point up at the little window in the back of the theater and tell me that's where the magic happens. So when I turned 17 and had to get a job, the first place I applied to was the same old theater. It was the one with those places that had been around forever. Opened in the 40s, red carpet, and that sort of brown, sticky floors, the smell of stale popcorn soaked into the walls. The new multiplex had opened 2 towns over, so we were the cheap theater now. I'm a guy, and back then I worked mostly nights. On weekends, we'd have maybe 10 customers across all the screens. And it was quiet. Too quiet sometimes. The managers were lazy, to be honest. They stayed in the office scrolling on their phones, counting drawers. The projectionist was an old dude named Mark, who looked like he'd been hailing dust since the Reagan administration. Big glasses, always smelled faintly like burnt plastic and coffee. He ran all the projectors from one long booth upstairs and overlooked each auditorium through those square windows. There was this story everyone told. Regulars, employees, even the manager would mention it sometimes. About a projectionist who died there back in the 70s. When the film reel caught fire, supposedly he'd been locked in and suffocated before the fire department got there. His name was on one of those old black and gold plaques in the lobby, in memory of Alan Rhodes, devoted employee. I love horror movies, but I don't go looking for ghosts. One Tuesday night in January, I was closing. The last show was some rom-com with maybe 4 people in it. By 10:30, everyone was gone. Lobby was clean, and it was my job to sweep the aisles and go upstairs and make sure the projectors were shut down. I did my rounds. Theater 1, empty. Theater 2, empty. Same with Theater 3. Lights off, doors propped open, so the cleaning guy could tell me they were done. The whole building had that hollow after-hours feel. When I reached the stairwell to the projection booth, I noticed something off immediately. I could hear a projector running. It's this very specific rhythmic whir, like cards in the spokes of a bike wheel, mixed with an electrical hum. But all of the shows were over. Mark had left a half an hour earlier. I'd watched him clock out. I went up anyway. The hallway to the booth was narrow, lit by a buzzing fluorescent that flickered every few seconds. When I opened the heavy door, warm, stale air hit me in the face, along with the faint smell of smoke. My eyes watered a bit. One of the projectors was still on, the one for Theater 2. The reel was spinning, film flapping slightly as it passed through, but the screen downstairs was dark. The house lights were up. No movie playing. Mark? I called out, even though I knew he was gone. No answer. There was a mug on the shelf next to the running projector, old ceramic thing with a faded logo. Steam was curling up from it. Not a lot, but enough that I could see it in the beam of the tiny work light. That bothered me more than the film for some reason. I took a step toward the projector to shut it off. It's just a click of a button, and something moved in the glass. The booth had a rectangular viewing window looking down into Theater 2. The room itself was dark, just exit signs and the faint glow from the aisle lights. In the reflection of that glass, I saw a shape behind me. Tall, shoulders hunched a little, wearing what looked like to be one of those old projectionist jackets. The kind with the name stitched in cursive on the chest. I spun around so fast I nearly tripped. No one there. Just two dead machines and rows of empty metal canisters. When I turned back to the window, the reflected shape was gone. But down in Theater 2, in the exact center of the auditorium, one seat was folded down like someone had just sat in it. All the others were up. My radio crackled and nearly made me jump out of my skin. It was my manager, asking why the lights in Theater 2 were still off. I looked again. The room was dark. No lights, no movement. I lied and said I was just finishing upstairs. He told me to hurry so he could lock the side doors. I hit the power switch on the projector. The reel wound down and stopped. The room suddenly felt much quieter, like when your fridge kicks off and you realize how loud it was. I grabbed the still warm mug. It smelled like strong black coffee, and I carried it down with me, figuring I'd give it back to Mark in the morning and joke about him leaving his stuff behind. Except the next day when I tried to give him his mug, he went pale. He said that exact mug had been his uncle's, Alan Rhodes, the one who died in the fire, and it had been sitting on a shelf in the back office for years, chipped and dusty. He said he hadn't touched it. We went to look. The spot on the office shelf where the mug always sat was empty, just a ring of clean wood in the dust. After that, weird stuff started happening more often. One night, the manager complained that the lights in Theater 2 were flickering during the movie. I went in, they were fine. But up in the picture on the screen during a quiet scene, I swear I saw a silhouette move across the bottom of the frame. Not in the film itself, but like someone walked in front of the projector. The rear kicker, months later, after the theater finally shut down, the owners couldn't keep it open against the multiplex anymore, so they closed it and put up a for lease sign. A few of us went to help pack up the old popcorn machines, posters, all that. It was broad daylight, no power in the building. My old manager had the keys, and he let us in for one last look. Habit made me wander upstairs to the booth just to see it empty. When I opened the door, the hair on my arm stood up. The projector for Theater 2 was on. No whirring, no engine noise, but the lamp was lit, throwing a square of light through the glass into the dead auditorium. The power supposedly shut off at the main box in the basement, but the machine was humming softly under my fingers when I touched it. I looked through the window. On the blank white screen, there was no movie, obviously, just the projection light. But in the middle of that rectangle, like a shadow inside the light, was the shape of something standing. Head tilted, shoulders hunched, looking up toward the booth. I didn't stick around to study it. I bolted, nearly crashing into my old manager on the stairs. He swore up and down there was no power, that the breakers were off, that it was impossible. They turned that building into a gym a year later. Every time I drive by at night, the top row of windows where the projection booth used to be are dark, except one. There's always a faint glow, like a lamp left on for some reason who refuses to clock out.